Hello and welcome to Cricket and Wrestling for Us. And thankfully, like I say every time, Aman is still with us. So, Alhamdulillah, very happy about that. And honestly, it's been a crazy weekend. We've had the WWE Draft, which everyone was super excited about. And honestly, it was good. It was very good in terms of there were actual changes rather than seeing people drafted to the same brand that they were already on. This time there were some changes, so it was great. It was fun. And Aman, first off, how you doing? And what did you think of the draft this time around?
I'm very well. Again, thank you for having me. Um, yeah, I was quite surprised. Some names in the draft that I didn't think that didn't pop into my head actually. That they might get drafted. I didn't think they'd move people like Becky Lynch or Seth or um, Edge. I didn't think that they would move people because, and I'm sure we'll get into it later on, but they've really stacked up that Raw side with some big names, some names that I didn't expect or didn't cross my mind, such as they moved Becky Lynch, Seth, Edge, Bianca Belair to Raw, really stacked up that Raw side heavy with some big established names. Um, and move some people to SmackDown like we expected. I think we expected Drew to move to Raw, SmackDown. Sorry,
Mhm.
Shayna Baszler, which was a pleasant surprise. Charlotte Flair, didn't see that coming. So yeah, as I'm sure we'll get into it further and further, some big names on both sides. Um, so it was a bit of both. Some names you didn't expect and some names you did expect.
Yeah, I agree. And funnily enough, if we talk about a few of these superstars, Roman Reigns obviously stuck around at SmackDown. Big E drafted once again back to Raw as WWE champion. But it's good to see that there was a swap of Becky to Raw and then Charlotte Flair to SmackDown. And I think the reason why Becky moved to Raw is the same reason why Seth moved to Raw, because they were like, we just want to be together. Let's just stay there, because Edge was moved on Friday. And that was a surprise. I didn't think they would continue, even though Seth and Edge, the third match is gonna be absolute fire. But I thought maybe they'd be like, "Oh, let's hold it off till WrestleMania, or like or Survivor Series for the sake of argument." But at this stage, it does look like Seth and Edge are going to continue their rivalry, if you want to call it that. Then obviously, you mentioned Shayna Baszler. God, please make it so that they actually do something with Shayna Baszler on SmackDown, because Raw just absolutely destroyed her character. Can you imagine her, Asuka? They were unbeatable in NXT, and they get beaten almost every like. I it's very hard to explain to people who don't follow NXT but watch the main roster. But dude, NXT, they were amazing. The perfect example is Karrion Kross, who has been he's been redrafted to Raw, exactly where he was before. And I'm like, what man? Like I saw today, like there was news that WWE was planning to split the Street Profits. I don't know if you heard about that. I was like, what? No, that's not something you need to do right now. Not anytime soon. And thankfully for Paul Heyman, the Usos are staying on SmackDown because Roman Reigns actually told him, get them on the same show. Otherwise, Brock is gonna kill me. So thankfully for the Bloodline, they remain together. And the biggest free agent, in my opinion, Brock Lesnar. I don't know if you saw that minute and a half promo. It was hilarious. I haven't seen such nuanced. It reminds me of the Brock who had the Money in the Bank, and he was like vibing to like this like a stereo or whatever it is, boombox. But yeah, definitely this Brock is a lot of fun. It's definitely a lot of fun. Just want to add one more thing before I ask you like specific questions. Um, Gabe Stevenson, I think that's his name, the Olympic gold medalist. He was instrumental to USA, but at the same time, he's now a WWE superstar who has been drafted to Raw. Reminds me of someone. Who does it remind us of? An Olympic gold medalist being drafted onto a WWE show. Aman, please help us. Who does this remind you of?
Let me see. Olympic gold medalist, broke his neck.
Charlie
Human
Haas.
suplex machine. Kurt Angle, ring a bell to anybody? But yeah, a lot to digest, really. The whole Gabe Stevenson, I think is his surname. I'm sure I don't know much of his career, to be honest, so I can't really comment on that. But I think it's another PR buzz, mainstream appeal signing that Vince likes to have, so he can get WWE into the mainstream media. He apparently, I think I read somewhere that he's still with some training camp or a university for another year, so he won't be making his actual wrestling debut for the WWE for another year yet. So I think this was just another PR stunt. Let's get some press. Let's get some mainstream media. Whether he lives up to the hype, I don't know. That the book is still to be written on that, so we shall have to wait and see.
I just want to ask you one more question, and this is pertaining to NXT 2.0. Okay, that Hit Row has been brought up. Okay, Xia Li has been brought up. Bridge Holland, Austin Theory, finally Austin Theory, his debut on the main roster. I don't know if it's his debut, but him coming back, him on the main roster this time around was probably the best debut, for lack of a better term, out of all the NXT call-ups, in my opinion. I thought the way he just came out, I was like, he's gonna do something heelish. He can't be a good guy. What are you talking about? And to me, that was probably the best thing on Raw last night, even though Raw wasn't too bad, but that was the best thing. The way they actually showed the entire Austin Theory coming to the ring, being all like a fan moment, and then absolutely smashing Jeff Hardy, which will be a feud, which will be a good feud. I just hope it's not a Karrion Kross Jeff Hardy situation, because oh my god. And just one thing, as you mentioned, about Gable Stevenson, he looks like an exciting guy. He looks like a good guy. He's a gold medalist. He knows how to wrestle. They just need. We'll have to see when he eventually debuts in the WWE how that's going to go. And again, your thoughts on the NXT stuff. And I have one pertinent question, which I'm going to ask you afterwards. But what are your thoughts on the NXT call-ups?
The Austin Theory thing, I think we can call it like his re-debut on the main roster. I think it was much better this time, like you said, with the coming in pretending to be a big fan of Jeff Hardy, then doing the move, taking a selfie. That I think the thing between when he was brought up last time and now, and his stint in NXT, he has a character now. You know that character. It's been fully fleshed out. He knows his character. He knows how to get that character over. Whereas before, they were just brought him up on a rush job. They didn't know really what he was doing with what they were doing with him. First, 1 minute he was with Andrade and Angel Garza. The next minute he was a disciple with Seth Rollins, and then 5 months later he was back in NXT. So it was kind of just like a whirlwind where nobody knew what they were doing with this guy. But at least now there is a fully fleshed out character. There is stories to be had with that character. He's identifiably a heel, but a bit of a goof as well at the same time, that character. So yeah, very happy and looking forward to Austin being on the main roster again. I'm sad for the Way fan in me that he's away from that faction in NXT. But Hit Row, I think that faction has just been hitting all strides. You could tell from when they debuted in NXT that they were going to be a big deal. My only concern, as with all call-ups, is Vince going to tamper with them? With them, will he understand them? Will the presentation of them be the same? Or will he, within a few weeks, be like, well, I don't really get it. I'm going to disband them, or I'm going to make changes, or I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I think Isaiah Swerve Scott should be pushed as the main guy from that brand, but I think Top Dollar is going to be a star either way. I think he has the height, the size that Vince likes. He has the flexibility. He has the character. So I think that will really help him on the main roster as well, and get him some more shine than he was getting in NXT. Ridge Holland, again, another guy who's tall, who's athletic, who's a big guy, stereotypically what Vince likes. Was surprised about the Xia Li call-up. That threw me a little bit, because she kind of just fizzled away from NXT after her match with Raquel Gonzalez. So interesting to see what they do with Xia. I believe she's going to SmackDown. So yeah, interesting to see what they do. But again, good main roster call-ups. They haven't been on NXT that long, so again, I think that goes to prove our point that it's just a feeder system, NXT 2.0 now, and I think you'll be seeing that more and more frequently, not just when it's the draft as well. When Vince and co feel like, yeah, okay, he's done all he can do, let's ship him to Raw or SmackDown.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% there. And we've seen that with people like, Damien Priest. He wasn't on NXT as long as some other people. You've got Ridge Holland, great example, Hit Row now as well. I just thought of something, and I was just reading through the draft picks. Shotzi and Tegan Knox were called up as a tag team, weren't they? They beat the tag team champions about a couple of times, 3 times, never got their tag team title shot. And now they're on different brands. So my question is, what's going on? People who are called up or people who are drafted to whichever brand, right? It doesn't come into effect till after Crown Jewel. So after the 20th of October, 21st of October. Why are they on the show now or right now? Why are they randomly having them jump all over the place? And then you've got Survivor Series the next month after that. How can someone invest in WWE after, the draft just happened? Aman, the draft literally just happened. How can someone say, oh, now I'm going to support Raw or Hit Row coming up from NXT? Technically, they don't make their official debut till after the 22nd. And then knowing how WWE works, they'd be wearing a blue t-shirt or whatever on the road to Survivor Series. And they'll be like, oh, SmackDown this, SmackDown that. So what's up? Why is this the case? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, if I can tell you anything, from my experience of watching main roster TV, don't hope for logic when it comes to main roster creative, because I don't think they believe in such a thing called logic.
Fair enough.
If they weren't going to make those brand draft picks official until after Crown Jewel, logically speaking, you would have just had the draft after Crown Jewel.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then, like you said, there'll be Survivor Series where it'll be, okay, Raw versus SmackDown, but how are you supposed to believe that people who have been on their new brand for like 3 weeks have got this undying loyalty to we bleed blue or we bleed red? And
yeah,
that whole concept is just flawed to me.
Yeah.
I can understand it from, okay, WWE versus AEW or WWE versus WCW back in the 90s. You had those brand loyalties, but inter-brand, I don't really get it.
Fair enough. I understand where you're coming from. Sometimes it's entertaining. Most of the time, it's illogical, as you put it. There's 2 more names I want to talk to you about, and then we're gonna wrap up with your favorite pick of the draft. Aman, Cesaro and Sheamus have both been drafted to SmackDown. Does this mean we could get a reunion of The Bar And on top of that, do you think the tag team of Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza, or Angel Garza, however you said, do you think those two as a tag team will be pushed moving forward? Because they're a heel tag team, which means they're not going after the gold against the Usos anytime soon. But I would love for them to kind of, go down that route. They absolutely thrashed whoever they wrestled recently. Yesterday, whoever they wrestled, it was a great match. And both of them are just absolutely brilliant. I think that they're really good individuals, really good single stars. But as a tag team, it's good to see them kind of interact. Yes, in story terms, it makes absolutely no sense. But we're not talking about story in WWE, man. We're just talking about the current tag team, right? I think they're a pretty good unit. And then Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio actually going off to Raw. I think it makes sense because they've probably done all they could have on SmackDown. They've exhausted all their channels, so that's a good fresh take. And I'm just glad, they've actually recycled people. There's been a swap which I don't really like because I wanted Finn Balor versus Ricochet, but now they're on opposite brands once again. But one day I'll get that, and I can't wait for that.
Yeah, I do think that the reason they probably put Sheamus and Cesaro on SmackDown is to reform that tag team. I'm sure it'd get a good pop, and it would be something that the fans are looking forward to. I agree with the move in terms of Sheamus because there was really nothing left for him to do on Raw. The Angel got, and I just remember this when you were speaking about him. I'm not sure if you watched NXT when he was still in NXT. He was a white hot man.
Yeah, he was
picking up steam. He was getting over. He was becoming almost like he became a heel. Then the fans loved him so much, became a baby face or an in between, and then just kind of got pulled to the main roster and hasn't really done anything since. So I do hope that they flourish as a tag team on SmackDown. SmackDown is traditionally known as more of the wrestling centric show, so maybe that's a good thing that they've moved to SmackDown. So yeah, let's wait and see what happens with them.
Yeah, can't wait. And just a couple of quick points. Tamina and Natalia, tag team champions for X amount of time, both on different brands now. So, I love how WWE just doesn't care about tag teams, but then also cares about Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode being together. So it's really confusing. But at the end of the day, at least they're having tag team wrestling, because at one point I just thought they hated tag team wrestling like 2 years ago, where tag teams were just scrapped. When Braun Strowman won the tag titles, that WrestleMania wasn't a great time. Aman, so just to end things off, who, in your opinion, was the draft pick of this draft? The best pick of this draft, thank you. Who is that one superstar you were like, yep, exactly what they needed to do with this one?
Oh, I think as we mentioned in the start off, surprised with the Becky Seth moving over to Raw. I felt like there was a story to be told between Roman and Seth on SmackDown. But I think I can't say that this was the best decision or best pick for me. But I think the best two picks in terms of what they can do next for their careers and in terms of stories and feuds potentially, I think Drew moving to SmackDown, Edge moving to Raw, and Big E going to Raw and Kevin Owens, going to Raw. I think those were the 4 picks that needed to happen, because Drew has done everything he needed to do on Raw. Kevin Owens done everything he needed to do on SmackDown. Edge, I think, probably done and dusted all his stuff on SmackDown as well. And Big E is now your main event babyface that you build that show around. And he's got a wide variety of credible legitimate, ready-made heels that you can place him against. So yeah, those were the biggest. Those were the correct moves. I think in terms of surprises, I was surprised to see Shayna go into SmackDown. Surprised to see Charlotte go into SmackDown. Bianca and Becky go into Raw. Finn Balor go into Raw, which was a bit of a surprise. And then I think the Kevin Owens thing needed to happen. If I had my way, I would have moved Sammy to Raw as well, because I think he's done all he can do on SmackDown. I wasn't surprised about Roman Reigns staying on SmackDown with the Usos and Paul Heyman. I think Roman Reigns is the hottest and biggest superstar in WWE right now, and they needed to keep him on SmackDown and continue to keep him the focal point of that show. So, yeah.
Agreed, 100%. Yeah, for me, the best pick was Bianca Belair moving to Raw, because I've got a strong feeling that she's probably going to win the title. And I think they've made it well enough in terms of, Becky moving as well. So, Sasha's not going to win. We all know she's going to take the pin 9 times out of 10. She's going to take the pin, right? Whoever wins. But definitely, I think that's a good decision. And Drew McIntyre to SmackDown, 100%, because they're going to have that match, Big E versus Drew McIntyre at Crown Jewel. Big E's going to win, right? They're going to shake hands. Drew McIntyre is going to move across to SmackDown. It's going to remind me a little bit of, when Drew McIntyre lost in NXT against, was it Andrade, right? He lost to Andrade. He lost the title, and Drew moved up into the main roster. So it's just giving me those types of feels. So definitely very excited about that. Thank you, Aman. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. We will be back with This Week in Wrestling later this week. Hopefully, no later than Sunday. Hopefully, if all goes well. But yeah, thank you, Aman. And until next time, everyone, take care.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.